the open road, a symbol of freedom, adventure, and sometimes unimaginable terror. Tonight we delve into 3 horrifying true stories of people who ran out of gas in the most terrifying circumstances. Imagine being stranded in the middle of nowhere with no gas and no help in sight. The sun dips below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows. Your heart pounds in your chest. Every passing moment plunges you deeper into darkness, and something out there is watching. Our first story takes us to a desolate stretch of highway in the American Southwest. Sarah, a young woman in her early 20s, was driving home from a business trip, eager to put some distance between herself and a stressful week. The highway stretched out before her, a seemingly endless ribbon of asphalt under a sky full of stars. Lost in her thoughts, Sarah didn't notice the needle on her gas gauge creeping dangerously close to empty. It wasn't until her car sputtered, coughed, and finally coasted to a stop that the gravity of her situation hit her. She was stranded. Miles from the last town, with no cell service, Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. She was utterly alone. As darkness enveloped the highway, Sarah's fear began to grow. The silence was broken only by the howling wind that seemed to whisper her name. She huddled in her car, her heart pounding in her chest, praying for a miracle. Just when her hope began to dwindle, she saw headlights in the distance. Relief washed over her. Someone had seen her. But as the vehicle drew closer, her relief turned to dread. It was a rusty old pickup truck, its paint peeling and its headlights dim. Sarah watched as it slowed to a stop a few feet behind her car. A hulking figure emerged from the truck, his face obscured by the shadows of a wide-brimmed hat. He approached her car slowly, his boots crunching on the gravel. Sarah's instincts screamed at her to roll up her window and lock the doors, but something in the man's demeanor gave her pause. He seemed more curious than threatening. He tapped lightly on her window, and Sarah, her heart pounding in her throat, cautiously rolled it down a fraction of an inch. "You need some help, ma'am?" the man asked, his voice deep and gravelly. Sarah explained her predicament, her voice trembling slightly. The man listened patiently, nodding his head in understanding. "Don't you worry none," he said, a slight smile playing on his lips. "I got some gas in the back. Be enough to get you to the next town." True to his word, the man retrieved a gas can from his truck and filled Sarah's tank. As he worked, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that there was something strange about him, something unsettling in his eyes. But she pushed the feeling aside, grateful for his help. Our next story takes us deep into the Pacific Northwest, where a group of friends on a camping trip would learn a terrifying lesson about the dangers that lurk just beyond the beaten path. There was nothing quite like the allure of the great outdoors, the promise of adventure and camaraderie that drew people to its embrace. Mark, Emily, Chris, and Jessica, 4 friends since college, decided to embark on a weekend getaway, seeking solace in the heart of a sprawling national forest. Armed with backpacks, tents, and a shared sense of adventure, they set off into the wilderness, eager to reconnect with nature and each other. The sun was beginning its descent as they piled out of their Jeep, stretching their legs after the long drive. Laughter filled the air as they unloaded their gear, their voices echoing through the towering trees. They had chosen a secluded spot, a clearing bathed in the golden hues of the setting sun. As they set up camp, a sense of peace settled over them, a welcome respite from the hustle and bustle of their everyday lives. The scent of pine needles filled the air, mingled with the aroma of wood smoke from the campfire crackling merrily nearby. They shared stories, jokes, and dreams as they huddled around the flames, the warmth of the fire a stark contrast to the growing chill in the air. As the night wore on, the friends decided to retire to their tents, lulled into a false sense of security by the tranquility of their surroundings. Little did they know that their secluded sanctuary was about to become a hunting ground. In the dead of night, a blood-curdling scream shattered the silence. Mark shot up from his sleep, his heart pounding in his chest. He fumbled for his flashlight, his mind racing as he stumbled out of his tent. The other 3 were already huddled together, their faces pale with terror. "What was that?" Emily whispered, her voice trembling. Before anyone could answer, they heard it again. A low growl, guttural and menacing, seemed to emanate from the darkness just beyond the circle of firelight. Fear tightened its grip on their hearts as the growl grew louder, closer. They huddled closer together, their eyes darting nervously into the impenetrable blackness that surrounded them. Suddenly the sound of breaking branches pierced the night. Something was moving out there, something large and heavy. Panic surged through the group as they scrambled to their feet, their eyes frantically searching the darkness for the source of the terrifying sounds. "We need to get out of here," Chris hissed, his voice tight with fear. He fumbled with the keys to the Jeep, his hands shaking so badly he could barely get the key in the ignition. Just as he managed to start the engine, the headlights flickered to life, momentarily illuminating the clearing. And that's when they saw it. Standing at the edge of the woods, its eyes glowing menacingly in the darkness, was a creature unlike anything they had ever seen before. It was tall and muscular, covered in matted fur, its limbs ending in wickedly sharp claws. Its teeth, bared in a snarl, glinted in the pale moonlight. A collective gasp escaped the group as the creature let out a deafening roar, the sound reverberating through the trees. Chris slammed his foot down on the accelerator, the Jeep lurching forward, but it was too late. The creature lunged, its massive paws slamming against the side of the vehicle. The impact sent the Jeep spinning off the dirt road and into the trees. Chapter 3. The Abandoned Gas Station. Our final tale of terror takes us on a family road trip that takes a sinister turn when they're forced to seek help from an abandoned gas station. John and Mary, along with their two young children, David and Lily, were driving across several states to visit Mary's parents. The drive was long, but the promise of seeing their grandparents filled the children with excitement. They sang songs, played games, and marveled at the ever-changing scenery outside their car windows. As the sun began its descent, John noticed the fuel gauge blinking ominously. They were running low on gas, and the next town seemed a distant hope. "Don't worry," John reassured Mary, his voice calm despite the growing unease in his gut. "I'm sure we'll find a gas station soon." But as darkness enveloped the road, and mile after mile passed without a sign of civilization, John's confidence began to waver. Just when their hope began to dwindle, they spotted it, a faint glow in the distance like a beacon in the encroaching darkness. As they drew closer, the glow resolved itself into a neon sign, its flickering letters spelling out Joe's Gas and Grub. Relief washed over John and Mary as they pulled into the deserted gas station. The pumps were old and rusty, and the building itself looked as though it hadn't seen a fresh coat of paint in decades. But it was a lifeline, a beacon of hope in the desolate expanse of darkness. John helped the children out of the car, their legs stiff from the long drive. David and Lily, their earlier excitement replaced by a growing unease, stuck close to their parents, their eyes wide with apprehension. The air hung heavy and still, thick with the smell of stale gasoline and something else, something indefinable and unsettling. "Stay close, kids," John said, his voice tight with concern. He put his arm around Mary, his grip reassuringly firm. Something didn't feel right. The silence was unnerving, broken only by the distant howl of a dog and the creaking of the rusty sign as it swayed gently in the breeze. John tried the gas pumps, but they were bone dry. Frustration gnawed at him as he realized that their lifeline was nothing more than a cruel illusion. "Don't worry, honey," Mary said, sensing his mounting frustration. "Let's just see if we can use the phone inside. Maybe someone can help us." They approached the building cautiously, their footsteps echoing eerily in the stillness. The door creaked ominously as John pushed it open, revealing a dusty, dimly lit interior. The air inside was thick with the smell of decay, and cobwebs hung from every corner, shrouding the room in an oppressive gloom. The shelves were bare, save for a few dusty cans of food and a lone, half-empty bottle of ketchup. Behind the counter, a cash register sat silent and empty, its drawer hanging open as if frozen in time from a hasty robbery. The only sound came from a flickering fluorescent light overhead, casting long dancing shadows that seemed to writhe and twist like living things. "Hello?" John called out, his voice echoing through the empty building. Only silence answered him. Is anyone here? Mary's voice was barely a whisper, her hand clutching John's arm tightly. The children, their eyes wide with fear, huddled close to their parents, their small bodies trembling. Suddenly David tugged at his mother's skirt, his eyes fixed on a dark hallway behind the counter. "Mommy," he whispered, his voice trembling. "I see someone." Mary followed his gaze, her heart pounding in her chest. At the end of the hallway she could just make out a shadowy figure, its form indistinct in the gloom. "Hello?" she called out, her voice shaky. So, the next time you hit the open road, remember these chilling tales. Always make sure your tank is full, because you never know what might be lurking in the dark, waiting for those foolish enough to venture unprepared into the night. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more spine-chilling tales. And until next time, sleep tight, if you can.